Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most complex challenges of our modern era. We're taking a completely objective, deeply historical look at how post-conflict recoveries from all around the globe might actually offer a blueprint for Syria's future. Let's get right into it. So, what happens after the bombs stop? Take a second to really think about that. Can a nation totally shattered by years of war ever truly rebuild itself from the ground up? Well, history tells us that the answer is yes. But the path is never easy, and honestly, it's never exactly the same. To understand what lies ahead, we really need to look back at nations that walked through unimaginable destruction and somehow found their footing.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap for recovery. We'll start with Syria today, then check out lessons from World War II, look at healing deep divides, explore the power of opportunity, map out Syria's current roadblocks, and finally, synthesize it all into a blueprint.
Section 1. Syria today and the aftermath of more than a decade of conflict.
Looking at Syria right now, the physical and human toll is just immense. The immediate challenges, they're staggering. We're talking about entire cities sustaining massive, heavy damage. There are millions of displaced people, both inside the country and externally as refugees. And the fundamental pillars of society, schools, hospitals, road networks, local businesses, they've all been deeply affected. Rebuilding all of this, it is definitely not a quick fix. It's a massive, long-term process that absolutely depends on political stability, security, and a whole lot of international cooperation.
Moving on to Section 2, Lessons from World War II and How the Giants Rebuilt.
Now, what's really interesting here is how history gives us two completely different approaches to total devastation. After World War II, Germany was basically in ruins, but they took a very institutional approach. They focused heavily on transparent governance, strong public institutions, and rebuilding their massive industrial base. On the flip side, Japan, which was also utterly devastated, focused its energy somewhere else, its human capital. They poured investments directly into their people, really prioritizing education, technology, and manufacturing. Both of these nations became global economic powerhouses, but as you can see, they used distinctly different blueprints to get there.
And that leads us to a huge, absolutely crucial takeaway. A country cannot rebuild successfully with concrete alone. Think about what that means for Syria for a second. Yes, pouring foundations and repairing roofs is vital, obviously, but that physical reconstruction absolutely has to be paired with intangible rebuilding. Preparing the next generation through things like vocational training, reestablishing universities, building effective governance, the things that actually sustain a nation in the long run.
That brings us to Section 3, Healing Deep Divides, moving beyond the physical damage.
So let's jump forward to the 1990s and look at the intangibles of recovery. Take Rwanda following the 1994 genocide. The social divisions there were incredibly deep. For Rwanda, recovery required way more than just fixing infrastructure. It demanded the active promotion of reconciliation and a massive effort to restore confidence in public institutions. Economic growth only became sustainable when communities actually felt secure and included. But then on the other hand, look at Bosnia. The war ended, but rebuilding relationships and trust, that proved exceptionally difficult. Political disagreements and this intense administrative complexity really slowed their progress down.
Let this stark statement sink in for just a moment. Peace is only the beginning. Ending the conflict in Bosnia was really just step one. What their history shows us is that long-term recovery requires stable governance, sustained investment, and cooperation that spans across many, many years. The mere absence of war does not automatically equal recovery.
Okay, Section 4, The Power of Opportunity and South Korea's Transformation. Let's see how this builds, looking specifically at South Korea right after the Korean War. At that point, this nation was among the absolute poorest in the entire world. But their growth strategy was highly methodical. Step 1, a massive investment in education. Step 2, leveraging that newly educated workforce to build up infrastructure and drive exports. And Step 3, locking it all in with consistent policies and long-term planning. They literally went from complete devastation to a leading global economy. It's just an awe-inspiring reminder that post-conflict recovery, when it's managed with real discipline, can actually create unique opportunities for rapid, sweeping modernization.
Now let's bring it back to the present with Section 5, Syria's roadblocks and the monumental challenge today. Applying all these historical insights to Syria's highly complex reality, we see a challenge with a dual nature.
We've got immense physical and economic roadblocks on one side, like rebuilding homes, reviving the economy, and restoring healthcare and education. But here's the catch. We can't solve those without simultaneously addressing these social and political roadblocks on the other side. You can't just rebuild a home, you have to encourage the voluntary, safe return of the displaced people who lived there. You can't just revive an economy without addressing those deep political divisions, and you certainly can't restore public services without ensuring the transparency and stability needed to attract investment. It's a package deal. These challenges just have to be tackled together.
Which brings us to our final section, the blueprint, synthesizing the lessons.
So how do we pull all of this together? While no single model fits every country perfectly, successful recoveries from places like Germany, Japan, Rwanda, and South Korea all share these universal factors. You need political stability. You must build strong, reliable public institutions. You've got to invest heavily in education and healthcare. You have to create real economic opportunities, especially for the youth. You need rigorous anti-corruption efforts. You require inclusive governance that actually gives everyone a voice. And finally, you absolutely need international cooperation. These are the shared traits of nations that manage to rise from the ashes.
I think this quote from our source material perfectly ties everything we've discussed together. Rebuilding a nation is not only about restoring buildings. It is about restoring opportunity, trust, and hope. That right there is the core contrast we've been exploring today. The balance between pouring concrete for reconstruction and nurturing human resilience. If those foundations of trust and opportunity can be strengthened, then stability isn't just a dream, it's actually possible.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. Will history guide Syria's future? Germany, Japan, Rwanda, South Korea, they all rebuilt, but they each had to forge their own distinct path. Ultimately, Syria's future is going to depend on some very difficult domestic choices made by Syrians paired with the sustained support of the wider international community. Understanding history really is the only way we can begin to understand the future. If you found this explainer helpful in breaking down this complex topic, please do like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who's interested in global affairs and how nations recover. Thanks so much for learning with us.